Today, we assemble to have a discussion on a particular topic. It's a perspective that we all collectively look at design as. We're going to talk about how would it be if design is going to be looked at a navigational aid, something which is very directional, something more conscious, but not on the terms of getting your thoughts heavy, but in a very different manner. Before we dive into the presentation, I would like to ask all of you one question. What would you think a true friend to you is?
I would say a true friend to me is someone that is um, honest at every level and would tell me what I need to hear, regardless of my own opinion.
Very well. A true friend is somebody who is on both the ends, like there in your tough times and also celebrating, but not just celebrating and absent on the tough times, right? There's somebody who's standing you at all the times and celebrating life along the way you're trying to tackle your life. Am I right? Am I trying to build a kind of a very common forum over friendship here? Yeah. So if we see this in a particular lens of being on both sides, trying to be transparent, trying to be very easy and trying to be very directional, that's what we're looking at. Now, we come back to that friendship part. Now, when we see in this picture, you see a lot of glam, a lot of the kind of luxury that has been portrayed in a very photogenic manner, in a very aesthetic manner. You see some objects over here in the photograph, a very nice the skyline and an architecture feature, the kind of cutleries that's used, and the bag over there. All these contribute to a very finesse of the picture, but when it comes to functionality, usability, do you doubt yourself by using these products? Yes, no?
Uh, no, no, I don't personally. I think they seem pretty clear as the vessel, a chair, a purse, a table, a surface seems pretty clear and spelled out.
Yeah. So most of the times what happens is the focus here is mostly on the bag and the kind of cutleries over here. So the designs in the market nowadays, this would be a great example for me to say that are being delivered a lot of solutions in the market, but they are being delivered with lesser of the usage service, but more of following the brand guidelines, as in the brand identity, the color, the texture, the materials, so much so that they do contribute to a lot of the aesthetic built, but very less to the functional use. So a lot of percentage in the statistics show that these bags are not really much used when compared with the bags of jute or the other materials, which look a little boring but contribute a lot in your usability. So this is a very small example to you to show that how the design in the market is being producing a lot of products which does serve the luxury market, of course, but when you look at it in a very closer way, they do contribute a little less in margin when you compare with the other bags and the other products which are mainly used for the purpose. Which brings us to one of the key identity brands, the Apple brand. I think the Apple brand has crossed the marginal success rate of the usability and building a gadget ecosystem, right from the functionality and the usage that they have to deliver in such clarity. Any user is trying to be trained or trying to be very much gelled to use these products. There is no harm in trying to link your devices. Your work becomes very seamless and everything becomes very easier when you're trying to navigate from one app to the other application. Now, one of the reasons why the Apple has gone in the direction of trying to achieve all the seamlessness in the functionality is the scientific terminology for this is they have actually studied and applied the design neurological senses, wherein we try to refer to differing and reducing the cognitive load of the human being. There is not much of hassle when you want to connect one gadget to the other. Apple has done a very rigorous study in the lifestyle of the user, the workmanship, and the audience that is using the Apple products. It has leveled and very seamlessly integrated their work process and brought a lot of success. Now, there has been a debate as to is the design answer to the expense in the industry as well? Because not everybody contributes or invests in the Apple products because they are marginalized into upper expensive products. Of course, yes, there is an expense, but they could try to compromise on the design quality for the expense, but they didn't. There are many more examples such brands where they have compromised on the abilities of design and bought to the lower costs. But there are also a lot of examples where they did not compromise the design and still retained in the higher costs. Now, here is the main situation that we all here to discuss and to understand what is happening in today's world and the market. Now, a human being, when they are trying to use the products, the first concern is going to be about the cognitive load. Cognitive load is nothing but you try to apply the pressure to your brain and try to get a lot of work towards it when you're trying to complete a particular task. When you have to tick off the tasks from 1, 2, and 3, your brain has to answer a lot of questions, maybe 20 questions to complete task number 1, and then task number 2, and then task number 3. So the more time it takes for a person to complete the task, the more cognitive load is activated in the person's brain. When we are trying to use products which we are not familiar with, which look really good, but we don't know how it exactly works or function, or when we are under threat of certain situations, they don't come and try to serve us. We get very confused trying to solve the understanding of the product that our task and our time has going to be taken a delay. Now, if you could look at this very simple example, I have used a typographical example for a sense. So, what do you read out of this text?
Yeah, it says emergency, I think. I can't confirm.
Yes, it's
It
emergency.
says emergency.
So,
The
do
font
you
that's
guys,
used isn't communicating emergency.
yes, so do you guys feel emergency?
No,
Of course
not at
not.
all.
So, that's one tiny evidence that we can really sense the usability and the kind of functionality and the kind of task that's involved just by looking at the font and the product as well. So I have used this typography as a metaphor to look at your designs and try to look at, okay, is that my friend? Is that device going to be your friend? Is that device going to support you during your tasks? Is that device going to be a very good help if you're trying to store it all the while along with you? So that's how we can try to, identify or maybe even question, is that really what it is? When an emergency as a word failed when we changed the font, then how can we delay our tasks by using wrong products? But for the sake of aesthetics. Of course, this is an aesthetic example of emergency, but it doesn't work here because it doesn't have the content to deliver what we need to. When we look back for one of the famous designers, Dieter Rams, who has worked rigorously in a Brown company and come up with a lot of product designs, has immensely contributed to a field of simplicity in design and trying to have a dialogue between the product and the user end. So when we see at this alarm clock, it's very simple. It doesn't have much of details or much of complexity that only one person knows how to use it, or it is not much of a hassle for anybody to figure out how to use this product and to be a part of the daily life. So this tiny little object might be your friend in the mornings. Another example of the Google company, they have remarkably trying to be very progressive in their sign of how they show themselves and how they actually activate the tasks on the first go itself. It's a very simple task. We have a particular dialog box with an icon where we are very much prepared to go and just type what we are looking for, and that the way that it has been placed and the way that has been dimensioned, it will force you to narrow down from five thoughts to one thought. It is not possible to, try to get very confused with this. You will definitely arrive at one thing or try to collate everything into one thing when you're trying to search something on Google. So the point here to be made is any design or any interface which forces you to try to narrow down, to try to save your time, that's going to be your friend in your interaction in your daily products. So Google has tried to reduce that time. Now, for example, the machine in the hospitals, when we notice the seriousness that's involved in the hospitals and the kind of tasks that happens on a daily basis in hospitals, is very alerting situations out there. And when you look at this gadget over here, it's of a very clear sense that, okay, I have so many buttons and certain colors have certain functions. And for a person who is trained to use this product, can use this in a very simple manner without looking into any periphery or any side locks or any back-end sensors or any under the product fingerprints or any such complexities involved. You avoid all the complexities and directly use this product as it is, where the screen is right in the center, the nozzles and manual and tactile, and the buttons with colors showing a pure sense of clarity on what is happening. So these are reduced to a very remarkable product and very much easy to use for the trained staff in the hospitals, and to activate the tasks in a very speed time and not causing a lot of delays for caring with the patient. Another greatest example is now we come back to one of the theories where you have heard about the Higgs law. Higgs law is mostly going to be speaking about if you have more choices, you will have lesser attention. You are having lesser probability of decision making. You don't know what to do. You might have heard the theory of probability in mathematics. So it often speaks about how many ways I am going to reach at one point. So by the time we figure out how many ways we're going to reach at one point, the other person might have already reached. So this talks about the task and the time involved in it. I think all of you are aware of what brand we're talking of in the example on the screen over here. So this particular brand has compelled the users to train them with the tactile sense manually by creating an instruction manual and trying to lay out very clear instructions, deducing and narrowing down to one possibility of building that shelf or one possibility of building that chair. So the user should not get confused a lot more and be very much in their minds in a lot of other solutions, which is increasing their time to do the task. Yes, this brand is IKEA, which has applied a very perfect design thinking, which helps us to reduce our distractions and try to follow and try to build the product as it is laid. When you look at this particular visual over here, so this is an example of basically what happens in our brains when we are trying to be an end users of the products. So mostly when we are in terms of our own high of dopamine, and when we are laughing and potting, and when we are very much non-responsive to the products per se. We are very lethargic and we are laid back to have been prone to be a victim of choices in design. Of course, the personalized choices is a very different thing, but choices in design might be looking in a very different lens. You're okay to, go shop for another shoe, of another type, of another leather made, of another material, of another size, of another look, of another stitch. So you're still in the choice mode or dopamine mode where you have all the brands at your foot trying to serve you the best on your liking, but not at your usability. So this is the difference that we get to see here. But on the other hand, when we encounter a situation where we are under threat or alerted to a consequence where we are very much stagnant towards, okay, you know what, I want this, I want to use this in this certain way. I really need this product. So that gets to a very high responsive to your dopamine system being in a back seat, and you're trying to get your alerted mind and trying to focus more on task oriented activities. And you're going to grab that any issue which helps you in that particular activity rather than trying to sit and trying to choose over things. So basically, the point being made here is we really need to understand the states of human beings and try to design it for them. We have to also consider the lot of states under threats, under happiness, under anger, under violence, under different circumstances where humans are prone to different states of emotions and situations, where the products can do come in handy and not just designed for particular aesthetics itself. For example, this is one of the successful designs. I think all of you are aware of this one. It's the London Underground map done by Harry Beck. So this was abstracted map that was designed to understand the pathways and the locations of the states and the cities and the places that people want to travel. And this is a pure directional example that we can have where using a lot of colors, colors are the great way to fragment things. Like you see in this particular example, using simple colors can first try to define what exactly we are trying to offer from the product. The end user are going to be arrested by the decisions that are available on the product rather than they think on themselves how do we use that. So we're trying to reduce the kind of time that has been involved in the task, and we're trying to make it very clear, you know what, these are the ways, this is what you have, pick one, two, three, or four. You don't try to think where do we go, what do we do, how do we go to three, what do we do in four. There is no such thoughts like that. So a good design is a very, very clear design and a simple design to invite you to activate your tasks and getting it done. One of the most successful examples is NASA control panels in their stations, where they try to monitor all the kind of planetary movements and this scientific related things in their science labs, where you can see the entire interface is very much clear in terms of the kind of colors that they have used in the buttons, the sizes that they have used in the button, the kind of textures, and the kind of arrangement that you can see in this kind of variety. The hierarchy over here is utmost clear when we see the light activations and the button activations, and along with the color application, where it brings in a very clear idea that this is the limit of the task and I'm going to do it within the limit. I am not going to be very flamboyant in terms of my aesthetics that I lose over the controls of my buttons and tasks. So it might look boring, but it works. So here are a few visuals of my projects which I have contributed, got an opportunity to contribute to one of the areas where A380 has been designed, the interiors of it. So we can explore a few examples of this one as well. So mostly the aircraft interior, what I have tried to contribute to the aircraft designs is going to be mostly about basics of ergonomics, like basic ergonomical seating, and reducing the visual clutter was my main aim. Like as I was talking a lot about having a lot of blingy things might confuse the user to how to use the product, rather having muted or clear divisions which can support with the minimalistic quality as well, and try to bring 100% of usage too. So these are few snippets of the model getting done and the seats being allocated. Yeah, when we look into the economic class cabin, wanted to divide it in very sectional segmentation, where you have the ceilings, the storages, units, the window panels, and the seats completely away from each other. So you got to have the overhead bins, which are not really much high colored. It is very muted, and you also have LED accent lighting, a sort of giving a false ceiling vibe when you kind of reminisce yourself that you are in a little bit of a homely environment. And of course, we've used dark gray and leather upholstery for the seats to make it look we've used very lighter colors on the seats. It tends to become dirty, and the dirt is very much visible to us. So if we use a little darker color, it seems to be maintained and seems to be a little premium to all the customers who are using that in the passengers. We used a blue fabric carpet. It's a very darkest tone of the blue to engage in a little bit of premium selection of the airlines. And they're also adjustable headrests with a lot of technicalities over there. So, moreover, when you look into this aisle, this aisle has been reduced the visual clutter to at least for 17% to the existing airlines, where we have a very sleek detail division between the overhead bins and the window panels over there, putting a glossy strip over there. So the glossy and the muted mats get into a very interesting contrast, trying to give a little different experience for the passengers traveling in the aircraft. So this is the other way we're looking at, as you saw, the overhead storage bins, and there is a seat back entertainment systems as well, where they have been integrated in a way where it becomes a part of the back seat without having an extra decoration or an extra clutter-free environment to be blended within the seats itself. There are USB and power ports which are integrated within. You don't see individual portable nozzles separately coming out of the seats. They are integrated within so that it looks clean and it also is easy to use. And there's two-tone leather as upholstery, which is used for the back end, integrated magazine pockets, and bulkhead display wall as well. So this is your area of your door entry, and you have your padded panels that is completely upholstered in dark graphite faux leather with the horizontal channels over there. So those lines contribute to, you can push and pull mechanism has been applied for that, and you can store anything, and anything that has to be accessed over there doesn't really have to have an obvious handle and an obvious entry for that. So it has been blended according to the design itself. Of course, this also has the ambient LED edge lighting that has been implemented. Wooden laminate bulkheads have been used, flush mounted IFE welcome screen, and textured floor panels. Frameless entry windows with mood lighting, a little bit of a warm lighting tone, I think it would be required for this. Irrespective of the cooler temperature task lights, this gets activated on an alternation, and storage compartment with metal trims to show exactly where they can try to access, open, close, and store their items in the aircrafts. So this was majorly towards your the aircraft designs, and now we're moving in to another example of my works, which is mostly like an artistic interaction display, which we were partnered with one of the most successful retail stores in our India, Bangalore. That was VR Bengaluru. We partnered with them for a particular event that was Whitefield Art Collective, when we were supposed to design products which make some statements in terms of design. This was more towards art installation. So there was this first product which was designed, was we named it as Knock Knock. So this is mostly like a humanoid robot kind of thing, where it symbolizes the AI integration into the real world. So these were the works that had been done and portrayed in the mall along with our students as well. Of course, we had been broadcasted in the media and the newspaper, where it became a hit, and most of the footfall became increased because of this participation in the art, and also was a very interactive display for the users to try to engage and relate with the kind of materials that we have used in that. There was another display that was done in the public interaction display as well. That was the portal. So we reimagined the portal to be as a very live example where you are seeing a particular bridge across the atrium of the mall, wherein the bridge does not exist, but we try to place in our photography and blend in the exact visual measurement so that it looks like as if it has been created. So this symbolizes the possibilities of the future where we can reimagine our virtual spaces in design over the reality based spaces as well in order to conduct a task or an activity related to any kind of humans. And this was another example where we try to offer an visual echo. Like, obviously, everybody is aware of the echo is multiplication of the sound. So we try to use the echo. What if echo would have been visual? So we have done an installation of visual echo in the public forum, which tries to bring in an infinite loop into the possibilities of the future. This was done in the theme of the future is now. And again, we were being broadcasted in the media, and a lot of people came and interviewed the vision of the design of the art installation, which was bringing a lot of interactive engagement to the public era, where design played a role to gather a community. And these examples, which I just showed of art installation, it is not going to be an example of an industrial product design like how the aircrafts was, but this also was a design which helped us to collect a lot of crowd and also engage with them for new possibilities of their thinking. So we were engaging through the installations. And this is one of the pod hotels which was being designed by me. And it's of South India's first pod hotel located in the Trivandrum in the South India. And we've been inspired this from a modern pods from the Japanese concept. And we are trying to replicate three modules segmentation in our design where we rest, refresh, and rejuvenate. Where the design over here is very clear. You have storages on the right side, and you have the sleeping pods on the left. You have the washrooms over here to refresh, and the kind of the old building which was reinvented to the pod hotel. The structure has been used to the nooks and corners of the spaces for people to rejuvenate inside that, so that it is very clear and very niche in order to study the space and to use the space, and not much of high complexities has been applied to confuse the crowd over here. So, out of all these conversational examples and my works as well, we come to a conclusion that as a community of designers, let us now try to redefine the brand guidelines and assess our need for the product, understand the customer usage, the aesthetic value versus the product usability, product iterations versus the product usability, the alternative products versus product usability. At the end of the day, we are here to not just win the design awards for our glamorous work, but also truly serve the need of the people where they really require the product, even though if it looks boring. We don't want to justify the aesthetics over the design usage, because we are going to undervalue our products and our skill as a designer if you're going to do so. So now we would be concluding it to be a metaphorical image over here, where we would use the design as a true friend, which we want to give to a lot of end users. We are going to develop a friend for them, where the friend can be navigational and supportive, not only in the good celebratory times where they can click good pictures, but also be supportive when they are walking in the rain at 3 a.m. in the morning, or just trying to find some metro station in a new city, or just trying to be very clear in the hospital areas under threat situations as well. So let's not look always on the good end, but we'll also look in the bad and challenging times of the human states and try to design, and hoping design to be a good navigational aid. Thank you so much.